Welcome back everyone for another video brought to you by Swish Gaming. Larry here along with Steven, and today we're going to jump a little bit back into the historic format. Swish Gaming members Steven Dykeman and Dewey Boo both were participating in some of the Star City events over the weekend. Let me get some initial thoughts on the historic format from you, Steven.
Um, it's interesting. I feel like I definitely like it a lot less than I enjoy like modern right now. I think the format is pretty linear in the sense that there are really it feels like there are only like three things to be doing in this format at the moment. I guess maybe four, three things. Well, because I'm gonna just branch like auras and like the humans aggro decks kind of together, which are just these decks that are just trying to totally slide under um the the other decks in the format. They just want to very quickly get on the board and kill people. We saw humans had a really good weekend. There's a mono white build, which is just classic clean mana, good threats. Esper Sentinel and Thalia's Lieutenant have pushed humans to absolute playability in historic now. Definitely an archetype to look out for. Zombies even had a little bit of success this weekend. There was a pretty sweet list going around with Phyrexian Tower and Shamblegast to power out potential turn three Liliana's Masteries. So they have like degenerate mana in the deck, which is definitely something the deck wants.
We'll definitely
Um,
be doing a video on zombies in the
yep,
next coming
yep.
days
I
because
figured I figured we'd be doing that. We do that like every single time new cards come out in
yeah,
Historic. For those who have
we
watched
do
our
love
prior videos.
we like going to the well, as they like to
Yep.
say, with
Yep, we enjoy
zombies.
we enjoy playing some zombies. It's a fun archetype.
Hmm.
But yeah, that deck had some success. And then we had that's like one way to attack the format. Just like be aggressive and kill people. The other two are Jeskai, the Jeskai Opus or Jeskai Control or Jeskai Creativity. Some variation of Jeskai, but um, you know, Jeskai is just like super good right now. The deck that we're about to play and talk about today is kind of falling into this same category where you're playing busted cards like Archmage's Charm, Memory Lapse are really strong cards. The Jeskai deck is obviously powering out. Well, there's a version that's powering out Opus, and then there's the Creativity build, which creativity's into the 7/7 that a lot of decks just can't beat. Uh, Something's Emissary. I forget the name of the card. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, so there's like that way to approach the format, just like play these blue control decks, and then the last thing that feels very good in this format right now is Jun Food, which surprise surprise, Jun Cat Oven is still good. It's been there the whole time. It's always just a pretty reasonable deck. It just does really good things. It's really hard to interact with Cat Oven. It's gotten a little easier now that Portable Hole exists, so the Jeskai decks can use Portable Hole to deal with Oven and Trail of Crumbs, but it's still just a great deck. So those really feel like the three just like things you want to be doing in this format, and nothing else really can keep up with them. There are other decks there, and they can put up some results, but I really feel like those are the three things you want to be doing right now.
Yep.
And so that here we are playing kind of like I said, one of those strategies with this blue control deck here.
Yep.
And I actually lost to a deck very similar to this. It probably wasn't the exact same build, but I lost to this in because the Arena Open was this weekend as well, and I did I think 4 runs. My best finish was a 3-1, but I in my other three were all 1-1. And in one of them, one of my losses was to this deck. I was on Orzhov Auras for all four of them.
Yeah. Little dive into this. This is a deck that was this build in particular was registered by the player handle of Robert the Bruce, all one word. They played in some satellites. Excuse me. Looks like they competed in a few different satellites this weekend. They
Okay.
had a 2-3 finish in the satellite. They went 3-3 in the satellite with it. They went 2-3 in the satellite, 5-1, 2-3. So they played a few satellites. In the main event, it looks like they went 3-3. There was also an additional player in the main event. The main event meaning the SCG Tour Online Championship qualifier on Sunday that you qualify by. You play the satellites to play into this big event.
Yeah.
There was also Frederick Tan, 2 words, um, handle that went 4-3. So they were just like one. They could. They were very close to getting the X2 range to actually prize
Yeah.
out that event, so they got a little bit closer. Like they had another round worth of playing than Robert and Bruce. Obviously, I don't think this deck is like going to be is like the powerhouse of the format. I do think this is going to be an interesting deck when it comes to skill play, like your skill play wise is going to be a
Yep.
very important factor here because I don't on paper value, which we're going to be breaking down these cards momentarily. On paper value, from what I see, I don't think it's showing as much power as like what Jund Food and all those decks are going.
No. Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely lacking in the like power department for sure.
yes, but at the same time, in that same light, I think this deck is going to be super fun. It
Oh, it will be
it,
very fun.
it drew my attention, and we're gonna break down these cards now, so we can have a little idea what we're gonna play. And I'm also gonna talk to you about the difference in Frederick Tan and Robert the Bruce's deck list. There's literally a 1 card difference, which I will break down.
Okay.
But first, let's just we're gonna start with the mana base. The mana
Okay.
base is pretty simple. It's a simple control shell where you can play a couple Castle Vantress. You got your assortments of basic lands, your pathways, your drowned catacombs, your 4 fetid pools for a good cycle land, your 4 watery graves to make your mana as good as possible. They're also playing a couple feudal ruins, which can be very handy. You also have a one of Hall of the Storm Giants, which is a new manland that just recently came out in the Dungeons and Dragons set.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's a land that if you control 2 or more other lands, it comes into the battlefield tapped. It
Hmm.
taps for blue, and it also has 5 in the blue and turns into a 7/7 with Ward 3. Those that don't remember what Ward does, when it becomes a target of a spell and ability an opponent controls, you counter unless they pay the Ward cost.
Yep.
So very powerful. A mechanic, especially on a man land. This could be very sweet to see how
Such an
that plays out.
annoying, such an annoying threat to play against, man. I've died to this card a few times already in a few formats. So super annoying, man. Land. The
Yep.
Ward 3 makes it nearly impossible to respect it, and when you have to respect it, you have to like lose so much mana on your own turn that like then your opponent just doesn't even have to fire it up, and it's just yeah, it's a really hard land to play around for sure.
Yep, most definitely. And excuse me, I completely agree with you 100% in that light.
Hmm.
Now we're gonna talk about some of these spells in the deck. Uh, this deck is playing 4 Shark Typhoons. It's pretty simple. It's a good like way to make the cantrip. You also
Yep.
get to go ahead and make tokens while you're doing it, so they can chump block early to try to help you set up situations where you can start to turn the quarter. It also is a good way to clock your opponent to be able to win, and then that card is so amazing when it comes to the mirror matches because let's
Hmm.
say hypothetically you're in the mirror and you're drawing your Shark Typhoons, your percentage is a little bit higher than your opponent's win because you're able to get these threats that you're not casting spells to really play, so they don't
Right.
their level of interaction for it's kind of low, and a lot of players is going to remove their answers that's going to be to it, whether it's being like your expertises, your fatal pushes, and so forth.
Yep.
Um, then you got the one of commit the memory. That's going to be very relevant later in this discussion. But so people have have quote unquote memory of what this card does.
Yep.
Commit is the side that you can play out of your hand. This is you put a spell or non-land permanent onto its owner's library, second from the top. And then memory has aftermath. Aftermath states that you have to cast this from your graveyard. But each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. It does cost 6 mana to do so, but at the same time, there's some cool ways that you could cheat this in this format. It doesn't look like we're cheating it in this deck, but typically I'd like you would see Torrential Gearhulks and stuff being able to cheat the card. But this is probably going to be a 6 mana spell from I don't see any way that we're going to be cheating it in this deck.
Yep.
It's playing a one of Baleful Mastery. Baleful Mastery is a sweet Strixhaven card. It's 3 and a black. It's pretty much doing what Nebraska's Contempt does. The only difference is you can go ahead and pay this for its cost. But if you pay it for the cost, the opponent draws a card. That that text right there is going to be very relevant momentarily.
Yep.
Yahini's Expertise. I'm very excited about this card. Here's why.
Yep.
Looking at this list, there's a lot of spells that you can make proactive instead of reactive, so this makes Expertise a pretty sweet sweeper in that line.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
this gives neg 3 until end of turn, and then you can go ahead and play a 3 drop. So the neg 3 happens, then you put a 3 drop into play. Um,
Yep.
three
Or less.
drops any spell, like just a mana value spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. Like I said, there's really cool cards that you can do this with.
Yep.
Primarily,
Narset.
yep.
Narset. Archmage's Charm to draw two. Just deploying your
Search for
search off it.
Azcanta,
Yep.
a
Just
Thought
killing something with a draw.
Seize.
Yep. Exactly. Thought seizing.
Cling to Dust is fine because you probably just cantrip with it.
Yep.
Like there's just so many cards that this is gonna be pretty sweet with. Which, believe me, doing it and putting either Narset or Archmage's Charm in there is gonna be nice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're playing one Mystical Dispute in the main board. It's a nice little catch-all. Worst case, at at complete face value, it could be a 3 mana leak. You know,
Yep.
it's fine. Four Narset's part of Veils. The Narset I want to talk about because it goes really well with two of the cards that we mentioned. It's really good with Commit the Memory because it's a good way to like remove your opponent from having a hand because you go have Narset into play, you go Memory and you do the thing and they'd have one card in their hand.
Yeah.
The other thing that's cool is Baleful Mastery. So if you have Narset in play, you go and remove their creature or their planeswalker for 2 mana on their turn after they draw. They don't get the draw effect off of this,
Yep.
which super cool thing that you can do. It's also
Mm-hmm.
going to be very good against opposing players that has Archmage's Charm, so that means they won't be able to actually effectively do the draw two feature.
Yep.
They might paying 3 mana to draw one card on our turn wouldn't really like phase me too much. I think that's a good rate that we're forcing them on. So Narset's going to be like the bread and butter of this deck. It looks like. It
Yep.
looks like that was the intention.
Yep.
Then we go down to some of the go to the 2 drops, I should say. We have 3 Memory Lapse. This card is super annoying. Would you say so, Steven?
Oh my god, dude. When you're yeah, like memory lapse literally like makes a lot of like keeps like much more awkward than they would normally be. Like for example, if I'm playing, well, let's just say if I'm playing Orzhov Auras, and my hand is like a one lander, but has like multiple hand hate spells and a core spirit dancer or whatever. Before Lapse existed, like that's a pretty easy keep. Like I have a while to hit the land drop. I probably got 3 or 4 turns. You know, I can play the game off of one land for at least like 1 or 2 misses usually, and still like function and maybe win. But now with like memory lapse existing, keeping hands like that becomes so much more difficult because you don't oftentimes even want to take the memory lapse with your hand hate spell. But you kind of have to because if they lapse one of those and you miss your land, then they just lock you into that draw step again of missing your land drop. And that's obviously just one example, but really that's the annoying thing about it is that it locks your it locks your draw step. So you really have to take that into consideration. Now there are also some times where lapse is like a lot worse than a hard counter spell. Like for example, again, if I'm playing auras and in the mid to late game they lapse something, but I have a spirit dancer or a SRAM in play, I can set it up so that I cast something into the lapse, but don't really care because I know that when I cast an aura, I can redraw the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously lapse can be a super big headache, but it can also be kind of weak at times. And, the same thing comes up in like Jund Food with Trail of Crumbs. You can like set up making them lapse something and then just hit it again with a trail trigger. So, we might see that in our play, Sometimes it's going to be really sweet for us. It's going to lock their draw step. It's going to be a huge problem for our opponents. And other times it might be a little bit of a headache for us, and we'll really have to try and figure out what to do with it. But yeah, Lapse is a really nasty counter spell for sure.
Yeah, Lapse is just gonna be so good, right?
Yep.
It's gonna annoy our opponent. We're gonna do all that kind of stuff, and they're just gonna be like, "Hey, what are we gonna do?" Right?
Yep.
It's just a good tempo spell. Then talk to us about Search for Azcanta.
Search Raz Kanta is a great card, man. Um, this card is how you win a lot of games. It's how Jeskai wins a lot of games. Most of them are playing two copies. You flip this card and you just kind of take over. So we will see what happens. But yeah, I'm expecting it to be very good. Like we said earlier, it's even cooler in this deck because we can cheat it in with with the Henny's expertise because sometimes there are games where you don't really want to tap out for it against aggro decks, but in this deck we can like not play it and be just fine because then we can cheat it in off the Hennies when we sweep them. But yeah, it's kind of how this deck like pulls away. Other than like a resolved Shark Typhoon, this is the card that when it flips will kind of take over.
Yeah, I agree. Like being able to like just generate that card advantage off of it is just so good.
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
huge. Yep.
and then Drawn and Lock is just another good counter spell slash removal spell because you can counter spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. It
Yep.
checks the same thing to be able to destroy a creature with mana value based on those number of cards. So a
Yep.
good two mana versatile spell is always good for a control deck.
Yep.
Excuse me. And then we have a couple Cling the Dust we've preluded to a little bit earlier. This is a one drop instant. Exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life. Otherwise, you get to draw a card.
Yep.
It also has Escape for 3 in the black, where you get to exile 5 other cards from your graveyard and get to recast this.
Hmm.
So, quite a
Not
good
too bad.
ability.
Yeah, it's going to be really important against the Magma Opus Jeskai deck for sure because
Oh,
we
yeah.
can eat their Opus.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing it there. Being able to like just stop what they're trying to do and do our thing is just so good.
Yep.
And then we have 4 Fatal Push. Talk us up on this.
I mean, Fatal Push, dude. I mean, it's just a clean, good removal spell. There are a lot of decks that's really good against right now. We talked about, I was talking about how good the aggro decks are right now. That's one of the pillars of this format is just play an aggro deck, play auras, play humans, play zombies. Fatal Push is going to be great against all of those decks. So, it's going to do a lot of work, and it should be pretty good for us. It's also quite good against Jund Food because it's going to kill the goose, which is a really important card for them.
Mm-hmm.
And triggering Revolt is obviously something that our deck is definitely able to do. We've got Field of Ruins. Um, we have some other ways that Revolt can trigger a Narset getting attacked and killed. That would trigger Revolt, things of that nature. So, but yeah, it's going to be good for sure. And just a classic blue black control card right there in Fatal Push.
Yeah, most definitely. Like just being able to do all that kind of stuff is going to be so good because the way a control deck really needs to operate, right, is we need to have like good efficient removal along with some nice little counterspell interaction, and then a good way to like get will eventually win the game. And it looks like with the like typhoons is a good way that we're gonna win the game. And we're just
Hmm.
gonna bury them until we can like get our Hall of the Storm Giants to close the game out and
Yep.
stuff. And we might even get some concessions because of annoyance.
Yes, it's possible. Yeah.
People get annoyed playing against stuff like this.
Oh
Right?
yeah, definitely.
It's not unwarranted. Like these kind of decks are very annoying to play with.
Yep.
Play against, I should say.
Yep. Yep. For
So
sure.
I get it. It's gonna be annoying. People are gonna hate it, and we're gonna love it. But
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to play. I think.
I agree 100%. And then we got the last cards. I don't know. I don't think we mentioned them yet, and that's just like the Thoughtseize and the Inquisition. You know,
Yep.
no, not much to say about those. Just good hand disruption. They've been in the format for quite some time at this point.
Hmm.
So, Steven, go ahead and talk us up about the sideboard.
All right, so let's. I'll wait on the thought season the cage. I'm just gonna go right to Legion's End. So I really like the three Legion's Ends because it's just like I said, Auras was a pretty good call this weekend and will probably continue to be a pretty good call moving forward as long as the format stays the way it is at the moment. Because I think Auras, especially Orzov, it attacks the creature decks very well. That includes the Jund food deck. It's usually a little bit favored there, and it's definitely favored, I think, against the humans and like zombie type decks. Um, just because those decks kind of do what you want your opponents to do in the sense that you're playing cards like Dead Weight, Mire's Grasp, Heliod's Punishment, which are all cheap, efficient removal enchantments, which draw you cards with SRAM, draw you cards with Core Spirit Dancer. If the deck moves back to Eidolon, um, um, the black one mana Eidolon, then you draw cards off Deadweight and Mire's Grasp there as well. Um, I was telling Larry before we did the cast, I think the matchup with Jeskai for Auras is it's about 50-50. It might be a little sub 50-50, but it's very close to 50-50. So I think Auras is a strong deck, so I think Legion's End is just a really good include right now. And Legion's End is obviously good against the other aggro decks too. It's going to be good against zombies. You can hit a Crypt Breaker, and then if they were sandbagging more Crypt Breakers, you just rip them out of their hand and get all of them. If they're going wide with tokens, you can hit all their tokens, which is really nice. Um, and it's going to be really good against humans too. Same thing, you know. I mean, they have an Esper Sentinel in play, and you just want to nuke all the Esper Sentinels. You can do that. You can get Thalia as lieutenant. Just a lot of good hits for Legion's End right now. I think it's a really important card. Mystical Disputes, just classic control mirror card. It's going to be really good there. It'll be good in other spots too, but specifically going to be really good against the control mirrors. Aethergust, just a clean card for the red and green decks. A card that I think is really worth noting is Test of Talents. Some people are probably like, why is there a Test of Talent? Test of Talents right now is really good against the silly Tybalt's Trickery deck going around. If you Test of Talents a Trickery, they are just in huge trouble. Their deck does next to nothing if you can test a Trickery. So Test is super good in that matchup, and it's also obviously going to be pretty good against like. I had someone do this to me when I was playing a Faithless Looting deck that was really gosh darn annoying. Just Test of Talents, you're looting. I had like some in the yard at the time, so they got rid of those, and the Faithless Looting decks are so much worse without Faithless Looting. And then obviously it's going to be fine against Control Mirrors, right? Someone casts an Archmage's Charm and tries drawing 2 cards, and you just test it. That would be huge because Archmage's Charm is such an important card in the Control Mirror. So just getting all of them would be awesome. So Test of Talents is going to do really good work, I think. It's possible that future iterations of these control decks might want even more than one copy. Um, then you've got just another good clean removal spell in Doomblade. The Go Blanks, Larry and I definitely know how good Go Blank is. We've played this card many times in many decks. Larry's played it a lot in Mono Black Aggro, super good in that deck. I've played it a lot in Orzhov Auras, super good in that deck. It's really just a good card, honestly. It does just exactly what a black deck of really any nature wants. It's going to make your opponent discard 2 cards, which is already like Mind Rot is close to playable. But then when you tack on the exile their entire graveyard, that is just so good against so many decks. So that's gonna really give us some good tools out of the board. Then we've got a couple copies of Witch's Vengeance, which is a nod to the tribal decks going on right now. Humans, zombies. I forgot to mention earlier, Merfolk is also doing pretty well right now. That's another aggressively slanted deck that's doing well. So it's going to be good against Merfolk, zombies, humans. It's just going to do good work for us. And then a little more card advantage with a single copy of Chemister's Insight in the board that's going to help us draw more cards. Going to be another critical card in like control mirrors. And then, like I said, I skipped the Thought Seize at the top. That's also going to be a good card in control mirrors. And I skipped on the Grafdigger's Cage, which is going to be great against. It's going to be pretty good against Cat Oven. Stop the cat nonsense. It's really good against Collected Company decks. Shuts off Collected Company. That's another card that is actually quite good against the Tybalt's Trickery combo deck because they can't retrace the Cascade spell, which is a critical game plan for them. So that's going to be really good for that. And trying to think if there's any other. Oh yeah, it's also quite good against auras. So has has a lot of utility out of the board. We'll be bringing that in a lot, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then, the funny enough, you say the two witches vengeance in the sideboard, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So the difference in the list that the other person I was mentioning earlier in this recording,
Uh.
they're actually playing one witch's vengeance in the sideboard and one languish. That's literally
Okay.
the only difference in the 75.
Which is that's so funny, dude. That's hilarious.
Yeah, the main board was identical.
Okay, that's cool.
Everything was like identical except for that one small tidbit, and that was the language that. Because I was looking at, it, I was like, man, I was like, what's the difference?
Yep.
I was like, oh, they're just like switched up one sideboard slot. They ran
Yep.
the numbers, as
Yeah,
they
this is
like to
gonna be
say.
sweet. This is gonna be a sweet deck. I'm excited to try it out. Um, Hopefully we'll have some pretty good success with it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. We're going to be having a video where we're going to highlight some matches with this deck. Don't know how many we're going to play, but we're definitely going to jam some sweet games of Magic Historic
Yep.
with this deck. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And for those that are watching this right now, also check out our other deck techs. We're going to be doing a deck tech on Pauper because we're also going to be doing some Pauper gameplay, which those will be in their corresponding playlist areas, and they might be at the end of this video. There's going to be like some suggested videos. We'd recommend you go check those out as well. Also, don't hesitate to check the Talking Switch podcast that me, Steven, and Dewey take part in.
Yep.
Um, we're doing a series right now where we're breaking down the current ban list for all of the different formats, and we're like going through and we're discussing if a card is worthy of staying banned or maybe it should be unbanned. And
Yep.
right now we've done part one of the modern, and next week being since context is king, it will be on the September 24th is when we're gonna have part two. But this week we're gonna be breaking down the new Innistrad Midnight Hunt set.
Yep.
But yeah, it's gonna be pretty sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I know you said that I'm looking forward to playing this, and we want to thank everyone for watching. We appreciate all the support. Definitely tell your friends about the channel. We love to do free giveaways for everyone on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and now TikTok as well, which we'll be
Yep.
getting more into that in the coming weeks.
And I forget, Larry, what was the deal we said if we get like what was it 1,000
Yes, if
people?
we have 1,000 entries among all of the platforms,
I'm giving a foil Croxa to somebody.
Foil Croxa, Dewey, you said he'd probably give some things. We have a bunch of extra giveaways that we would do if we got at least 1,000 entries.
Yep. So,
So,
if
yeah,
you enjoy free things,
yeah,
feel free to join one of these.
like
One of these
free
entries.
free opportunity to like get to get out there and get some free stuff. Like,
Yep.
what more can we say? We're trying to give you all the free stuff. Yeah, let's just to double check. Yep, if 1,000 entries are hit, we'll be adding additional prizes, including but not limited to a foil Croxa, a Foley proxied EDH deck, some collector boosters, and more. The more entries we get, the more stuff we're gonna throw for this raffle. We don't
And
have an end date.
how many entries are we at currently for that?
I don't. I'd have to go through and
Not sure. Okay.
calculate.
Okay.
Um, so I don't have that calculated how many we have currently, but the ways to enter, guys, is be liking our Facebook, like liking the actual post,
Mm-hmm.
my apologies, liking us on Facebook. That's number one.
Liking. Okay, liking us on Facebook. That's step
You
one. What's
subscribing
step
to us subscribing to us on YouTube.
two? Okay. Easy peasy.
Going on Twitter, retweeting and liking this.
Okay.
And like
Retweet and like on Twitter. Got
retweeting
it.
and liking the entry, the announcement for the Midnight Hunt.
Yep.
There's an actual post for it.
Okay.
Or following us on Twitter.
Okay. So
And
either or. So on
yeah,
Twitter, it's either or.
each one is considered one entry.
Okay, easy peasy.
Everybody can have the opportunity to enter 4 times.
Man, oh man.
Like there is 4 ways to enter. Like there is so many ways that you can enter, and it's such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I would say, take advantage of this. I do these free entries when people want to give stuff away on Twitter.
Yep.
Like I like free stuff, and I think y'all
Oh
do
yeah.
too. And like
Oh
I
yeah.
said, the EDH deck that we're trying to give away, it's really good proxies. Like they're not
Sweet man.
like paper proxies. They're pretty good.
Very cool.
And I definitely would recommend people to go ahead and take advantage of it.
Very cool stuff.
But yeah, we're gonna get into some gameplay and stuff, and we want to thank everyone again for watching our video. Make sure to hit that like on YouTube, hit that bell to get notified whenever we have more videos just like these, and we're gonna have some more gameplay. Like Pokemon Stadium is gonna be on the agenda this week as well. But
Oh
until
baby.
next time,
That'll be fun.
this has been Stephen Larry, brought to you by Swish Gaming. We will catch you guys later.